but no amendment, but no amendment, but no amendment. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. We call it freedom of speech. From the very beginning, you couldn't own any weapon you wanted to own. From the very beginning the Second Amendment existed, certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. So the idea is just bizarre to suggest that some of the things we're recommending are contrary to the Constitution.
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So, back by popular demand, The View. The View is back. And unfortunately for them, they've already made probably their most intelligent points for the entire year of 2024. So with that in mind, I think we should have The View lead a review of the United States Constitution. Answer all the great liberal questions. Is it living? Is it breathing? Does it even matter? What is it? What is the Constitution? All brought to us by the fine and thoughtful constitutional scholars of The View. But before we get into that, guys, please be a part of the channel's growth. This is a presidential year, and I think it's going to be more and more difficult to get conservative voices heard. So let's do this together. Make sure we like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. Take a look at this.
Maine recently became the second state to boot you-know-who off the ballot. They cited the same constitutional amendment. I'm going to say that again. The same constitutional amendment that Colorado did, which states that anyone who engages in insurrection is ineligible to run for political office. Okay, that's what the Constitution says.
Yeah, so that is more or less correct. I think where they're going to have a pretty serious disconnect, unfortunately, so early in this program of theirs, is the question that the left believes that they answered all the way back on January 7th, 2021. And of course, we're going to have to hear about it in a very, very good and thoughtful and passionate speech by Joe Biden tomorrow on the fake Democrat holiday of January 6th. But for the rest of us, the ones that can actually still form a thought, that question remains unanswered. That question remains unproven. And really, it remains unasked. Was there an insurrection? And if there was an insurrection, why has no one, and I mean no one, especially the guy that they say caused it all, why has no one been charged with insurrection? And why has the word insurrection not even made one appearance in thousands of charging documents or hundreds of sentencings that have happened as a result of crimes that were alleged by the government and prosecuted by the government since then? Sounds like it hasn't been decided. And it certainly, without a doubt, cannot be decided. Nothing, by the way, can be decided. Nothing consequential, nothing constitutional can be decided by an unelected political activist pretending to be a serious person.
But now you know who is vowing to appeal, and some of his Republican rivals for the nomination think he should be allowed to stay in the race. Take a look.
The idea that one bureaucrat in an executive position can simply unilaterally disqualify someone from office, that turns on its head every notion of constitutional due process that this country's always abided by for over 200 years. It opens up Pandora's box.
Makes him a martyr. You know, he's very good at playing poor me, poor me. This should be decided by the voters of the United States. It should not be decided by court.
Guys, you know, it really does bother me. You know, these people, they pass themselves off as tolerant, as accepting, the most compassionate and intelligent people among us. But they can't even bring themselves to say the name Donald Trump, because if they do, especially if they do in public, they will literally have an uncontrollable physical reaction that could damage their brains even more than they've already been damaged before, past the point of no return. And truly, this is insanity. To not be able to say the guy's name, that's just crazy to me, man. But anyway, back on point. Ron DeSantis said the magic words that really should be all this View segment or any segment on the subject is about. If anyone cares about the Constitution or the law or their fellow citizens at all, this is what it should be about. And, you know, The View, they're not going to tell their audience about it. They're not going to talk about it. But due process, due process, due process. It really is that simple. No matter who we, any of us, as people, even people that have positions of power, no matter how we personally feel about someone, no matter what we think they did, they are entitled to due process. You know, when we allege that they've done something, we've got to prove that they have done what we allege before we punish them for it. And that goes for everybody. It's a very simple concept.
And he has spent all of this time fighting that and saying that it, you know, it was a lie, it was this, it was that. He's been tossed out all over the place. Yeah. And now suddenly they're paying attention to the law. Where's everybody been? Did you just wake up and go, oh, damn? I mean, what do you think? What's going to go on here? Because they say it's going to be up to the U.S. Supreme Court to decide if the Constitution does indeed bar him from running. Even though the Constitution says, listen, if you do this kind of stuff, you can't run.
Well, first of all, yeah, it is up to the Supreme Court. That is basically their one and only job, to interpret the Constitution and to ensure that no one's rights are being violated in a way that the Constitution protects, especially by the government. So yeah, Whoopi, that's just crazy. Her blasé, you're like, well, now it's up to the Supreme Court to decide what the Constitution says. Yeah, it is. That is exactly the point. And to her point that it says, you know, you can't do this kind of stuff. No, it doesn't say you can't do this kind of stuff. It's very, very clear on what you can or can't do. It says you can't do insurrection, which I'll remind you, again, the government, through the omnipresent, holy leftist being that is Jack Smith, hasn't even alleged in their own January 6 cases. Now, ironically, you know, they didn't even word their allegations much better than Whoopi did, you know, this kind of stuff. So yeah, the good news is the Supreme Court gets to decide if what the left has told their mushy brain followers was an insurrection was anything more than just another angry, violent mob, which of course the left themselves basically set the precedent for.
But apparently we always have to recheck with this fool, because every time he does something, they say, oh, well, they didn't mean him.
But they did mean him.
Yeah, speak to this. Speak to him.
I'm going to speak
it,
to
girl.
it.
Speak it.
You know, the thing is,
Sunny Hostin, ladies and gentlemen, she gonna speak it. She gonna speak it. But just look at the look on her face first. She's the only quote-unquote lawyer at the table, and her face says that she has no idea what to say, no idea what she's talking about, doesn't even, she recognizes that this entire segment is ridiculous.
this is black letter constitutional law, and the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment basically says if you participated in an insurrection against this country, you may not hold office. You may not do it.
Say
and
that
some
one more
people,
time.
You may
Tell them
not.
where it came from. Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson Davis.
Right.
Because it's about the Civil War, and they did not want anyone who tried to really take over this country by force to be able to hold office ever again. That is what our framers want, right?
All right, just another quick reminder, guys. I mean, not to get in the weeds on this stuff, but the great majority of those people were let into that building peacefully, and they left peacefully. And the most dangerous weapon, not that it was okay to have it there, but the most dangerous weapon that any of them had was bear spray. And even that was just a handful of people, very, very small handful of bad actors. So, you know, this, I think, where the argument is going to have a lot of issues before the court. You know, Sonny says by force, taken by force. And I'm telling you, by force, or for force to be considered an insurrection, I think it's probably got to be a bit stronger than some broken windows. And she wants to bring up Civil War. The South brought a literal fighting armed army, not bear spray, not broken windows.
It's going to go to the Supreme Court, but there are 4 justices that said that's claimed to be originalists, textualists, meaning what was written in the Constitution at that time is the law that continues. I believe differently. I believe that the Constitution is a living and breathing document. They don't believe that. So if that is the case, on the floor, when they were debating it, someone said, let me call the senator's attention to the words of hold any office, civil or military, under the United States. That means the president who held an office cannot be on the ballot because he was involved.
But
and not only involved in insurrection, he caused that insurrection.
Yes, that's true. He is the leader of the pack.
He caused it.
But according to what Christie just said, it will make him a martyr. So we have to decide, do we want a martyr or a felon? Those are our choices, basically.
Yeah.
Guys, let me know in the chat, you know, what do these people actually mean when they say the Constitution is a living and breathing thing. I mean, do they mean that it changes over time to suit the times? Because if that's what they mean, it can change over time. There's a process for that. The process is the constitutional amendment. I mean, do they mean that? Or do they mean that our rights actually change to fit the times? Do they mean, I think what they mean, that free speech in the 1800s is not the same free speech in the age of the internet. They're trying to say that there are two different kinds of free speech, or whatever right, insert right here, and that the government gets to decide what kind they are and how the times fit and how the Constitution fits. I have a feeling that that's what most of these leftists mean when they say it's a living, breathing document. And guys, I got news for you. They prove the point. That is exactly why you need originalists on the court. These originalists that she appears to despise so much, we need them. We should have 9 of them. Honestly, every judge, every justice, Supreme Court justice should be an originalist. They don't all have to have the same politics. They don't all have to be Republican or Democrat. Shouldn't matter. Honestly, it should not even matter what the justices' politics are, because what they're interpreting are words on a paper, not political words. There's not right or left in the Constitution. There's only right to protect us from wrong, generally government wrong. But anyway, Sonny posits that if they are originalists, then that means they should see that what Trump did was an insurrection and he caused an insurrection, whatever she was saying. And I got to ask, now I wish I could ask Sonny, but I'll ask the liberals that watch the channel. I really do appreciate you guys commenting all the time. We always have a good discourse. But if you believe so strongly that that is true, that she's correct, then how angry are all you guys that Jack Smith hasn't confirmed or upheld all these crimes that you believe happened? I mean, shouldn't all leftists be insanely upset that Jack Smith, the great Jack Smith, the all honorable, didn't have the actual spine to charge the crime that you all believe happened? Instead, they don't care about that. They don't care what was charged, what wasn't charged. They just care, get Trump. And they just clap like a bunch of trained freaking seals every time they hear the word insurrection.
Oh, it is always evolving
It's
and
a living
changing.
and
It is a
breathing
living
document.
Well, someone would
document.
then say they'll make amendments. I think the argument for
Yeah.
originalists would be the amendments become part of that written
Yes.
law.
And
I believe
by
the
the way, this is
interpretation-
an amendment.
Yeah.
Right, but I would say
This is an amendment,
the difference is people that agree, because I agree with you, Sonny, I believe it's a living document,
I do.
that I would view the Second Amendment differently than it tends to be viewed by majorly pro Second Amendment people, which
Yeah.
is that they were planning a little more on a musket than an AR-15.
Yeah.
But what I would say
Well,
here is...
Scalia did that.
Yeah, but personally, I think he definitely engaged in an insurrection, and I look forward to him being convicted, rightly so. But I think even more so, the language says if you aid and comfort insurrectionists. And from
Yes.
the day he came out of the White House, he said, "We love you. Go home."
That's such a
He then-
great point.
Yeah,
He
and then he
thanked
also,
them.
yep, and then in the video when he
Good
also
people
said
on both
he
sides.
would pardon the no, this is specific to the insurrectionists.
Yes.
What planet are these people on or from, man? Listen to poor Joy Behar, man. She has such little clue what she's actually talking about. She doesn't even know what they're talking about. All she knows is get Trump, get Trump, get Trump. And she hears, remember when he said something? And she's like, I got it. Good people on both sides, good people on both sides. And the tables, they're like, no, Joy, that's racism. Of course he's racist. We all know he's racist. But that grift didn't work, man. People didn't buy it. We had to move on. This is about him trying to take over the world. He took over the world. Stay on track, Joy. I mean, these people have no idea what is going on, what they're talking about. They're just, this group of ladies right here, they're just collecting their checks and doing their propaganda part.
So I think but the point I would say here is that I actually agree with Governor Gavin Newsom and David Axelrod. These are Democrats, leading Democrats, that say this would really cause a division that's almost insurmountable. And as someone that believes January 6th was that bad,
so
wait one
what-
second.
so what are you saying?
Wait, just 1 second. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to hold this. I think they're going to overturn it, and it won't just be the originalists. I bet it's a 9-0 vote. I actually don't think they will hold this.
So you
but I
think they should leave it to the
and
voters or
I-
not?
I think they should leave it to the voters, but I
no.
think
You guys heard that right. The last intelligent thing spoken on The View in the year 2024. And I think it was their first day back, if I'm not mistaken. Sarah Haynes says that it is going to be a 9-0 decision in favor of Donald Trump because liberal or not, originalist or not, she recognizes that the Supreme Court justices understand, A, what due process actually is and what it means, and B, what an insurrection actually is and what it means. And of course, the last intelligent moment on The View was followed as quickly as possible with Joy Behar was saying, like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you saying we should leave it to the voters? What, are you insane? And Sarah Haynes says, yeah, leave it to the voters. And Joy literally, you could hear her say, oh no. So that was it, guys. The smartest moment of the year and the most telling moment of the year, back to back. Pack it in, show's over.
I think the division this will cause, because what will happen is that martyrdom will be one step more. We have a nation that doesn't believe in democracy, doesn't believe in the voting. Everyone that loses says it was rigged and failed. I think this will create a visual to people that this was a rigged election by doing it. I do.
I think that the law will stand and people should follow the law.
If that is the law, the Supreme Court
if you're not going to follow an
conflicted.
amendment, then why don't we have Taylor Swift
But I take
run
a
for
different. I don't think it's
president?
as.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where she's going. I mean, doesn't she know that Taylor Swift is the last hope of the Biden campaign to flip back all these young people that are now parading in the streets calling Joe Biden Genocide Joe? Joy says we should follow the law. Yeah, I agree. But, she's not at all upset, again, that what she says Trump did, the laws that she says he broke, were not charged. What she says he did and what they actually charged him with, they don't line up at all. She has actually no clue. And notice at the beginning of all of that, Sarah Haynes said, everybody who loses claims it was rigged. She didn't say Republicans. She said everybody who loses says it was rigged. That's a rare admission, especially for The View. So good for her. Now, cue the very, very fake, but also very, very attractive conservative.
Clear perspective than the martyrdom. I'm very conflicted on this as a conservative because I tend toward being more of an originalist. I worry about two things. When we look at the law, you think of the precedent that it sets. So say that this ends up holding. Donald Trump becomes, if he, God forbid, becomes president about this time next year, he could weaponize that same ruling to keep Democrats off the ballot. In the same way that he says, Joe Biden is a threat to democracy, he's going to say, this Democrat engaged in insurrection. This is what I mean. It's going to be off the ballot.
So then we're operating from a place of fear.
If he has secretaries of state or he has appointed judges that he appointed who are loyal to him, they will weaponize the same decision. And one more thing, democracy.
I'm pretty sure the Democrats aren't going to start a January 6th insurrection.
But the problem is,
They won't, huh? Sonny, what if I told you that they would?
Now, the protesters themselves said they had about 400 of their members that were able to actually enter the Cannon House office building today, and arrests are underway right now.
Oh, that tree's gonna light up. Yo, that tree's gonna light up.
Yeah, so guys, the only difference here, besides the actual level of violence and destruction, are the voter registration cards, if these people even have voter registration cards.
it'll be based on their definition and interpretation, is my fear. My second thought here is democracy is very fragile right now. A third of Americans, Republicans, don't believe the last election was legitimate, even though it was.
I was going to say, you believe.
I believe it was legitimate. My fear here is this will, for the first time, they will be able to say, I cast my vote for Donald Trump and the system threw it out, and then it will actually be true. It feeds into this notion.
You're then saying that people are so dumb that they won't recognize that when you say, you know, I cast my vote and they threw it out, that there is a symbiosis in here.
And they don't.
And the fact that he is not, this wasn't like, oh, we're saying you can't vote for this, but we're not going to keep him on there because we don't like him. No, this is the law.
But there's so little trust is the problem. And
Yes,
listen,
but you know what? At what point does fear take over? Because if you're afraid to make the laws stick, then there's no point in having them.
and if it's that clear, the Supreme Court will decide it. I think
Whoopi, I mean, that is exactly what this is about. You do not like Donald Trump or anyone who would vote for him. I mean, literally every single person who hasn't given in to your never-ending daily propaganda, you know, that's what this has been about. That's what this has always been about. Ever since the FBI was lying to FISA courts and pawning off Hillary's bought and paid for campaign character assassination garbage as evidence, as actual evidence to spy on American citizens. That's what this has been about. And for her to question, you know, her question about, do we think people are that dumb? No, Whoopi, we don't. We don't. And polling proves people are not dumb. People are not dumb. They are waking up. The majority of people are on to these games that people like The View are playing and other government, you know, state-approved propagandists. And as far as to her question, when does fear take over? November 2016, Whoopi, that's when your fear took over. Now, back to Joy Behar, still trying to figure out what the hell we're even talking about.
Gorsuch.
will it change your opinion though if
Clarence
9 of them vote this down as unconstitutional?
And who's the other one? There's 4 of them. Gorsuch, Alito, Amy.
Kavanaugh.
And Kavanaugh.
And so they have lied. And so that is a concern for me, but that does not change the fact that that is the law.
They went on
That is
television
the
and
law.
said
if it's
that
8 or
Roe v.
9?
Wade was established law, and they still overturned it. So I don't trust them at all.
I mean, and final point, we are only even having this unprecedented conversation that literally hasn't been discussed since the Civil War because of Donald
the
Trump's
unprecedented
actions.
insurrection started by Donald
J.
Trump.
There you have it, guys. In typical leftist, Marxist, far-left Democrat fashion, you know, this is very, very light on facts. This is completely devoid of reason. And it's reliant almost completely on lunacy and pure emotion. But here's the key thing here, I think. You know, you have confused Joy Behar talking about, you know, this is the law and that is the law and we got to follow the law. And she's saying she doesn't trust the Supreme Court, which honestly I think sets up exactly what this is all about for the actual puppet masters that are making all this come to fruition. This is not about anything more, I think, in my opinion, than impugning and then destroying the Supreme Court. And they have spent years and years convincing and priming a literal army of low IQ Democrat victims of propaganda that they believe that this is settled and that what they saw was an insurrection. And now when the Supreme Court sides on the side of the actual Constitution and decides that that wasn't an insurrection, or at the very least, it hasn't been decided whether or not it was an insurrection, then they're going to go, the left, I mean, to any length necessary, whether it's through talks of packing and expanding the court or term limits or whatever crazy things they come up with every once in a while, you know, whether it's through complete insane, you know, leftist action, whatever you want to call it. Things I don't even want to put out into the universe, right? They will either use that or they will use their packing or whatever. They're going to use something. They're going to use this entire fiasco to try and live out their fantasy of destroying the Supreme Court. Because the only thing that I think stops this train, or maybe even slows it down, is if this really is a unanimous decision, if all the liberal justices get on board also. But anyway, like all discussions on The View, guys, that are meant to just be a twist of propaganda, you know, knives, take a look at how this one ends. You know, I think they're probably, judging by this ending, I think they're probably worried about Taylor Swift more than anything.
Legal
I have a
note.
legal note.
Yeah, she knows.
Trump has denied any wrongdoing regarding January 6th. He has also denied wrongdoing in state and federal criminal cases and has pleaded not guilty to approximately over 90 charges.
9.
Yeah, so there you have it. Textbook view, legal disclaimer then. They have to get their digs in even when they're doing their legal duty. Pretty impressive group of women, if I don't say so myself. That's all I've got, guys. That was a long video. I hope you enjoyed seeing what true lunacy we're up against, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, guys, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. And we'll see you in the next one.